Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we've got a bit of a news roundup for you, including stories like when we'll be able to play Rialto as the payload map that it is outside of the Retribution PvE, a rather stealthy additional D.va nerf, as well as a little teaser about the much anticipated Symmetra rework. So let's deal with the Rialto map first. Everyone seems to be loving the Retribution event, and a particular highlight of it is the nighttime version of a new payload map for us. Jeff stated on the forums yesterday that the payload version will be on the PTR in about a week or two. Now in the PvE version, the Blackwatch team starts in Antonio's office as that's where the story really begins. But if I had to guess, when it functions as a payload map, the flow of the payload will actually be in the reverse of that. So the attacking team might spawn where the extraction zone is for the PvE right now. That is just speculation, but it does make a little bit more sense to me that way. I also don't expect it to have exactly the same flow either, as in some of the buildings that you can walk through and some of the routes that you take in the PvE might not be best suited for a well-rounded player versus player experience. Thankfully though, because it's out so soon on the PTR, we won't have to rely too much on guesswork. Also of note, in Jeff's short post about the map, he confirmed that Hanzo will indeed hit the PTR this month, although they're not sure of the exact ETA. We've covered the Hanzo rework a lot on this channel, and we get the impression from the community that this is one of the most anticipated reworks, if not the most anticipated, that's ever happened for any hero in Overwatch. There's only 19 days left in April, so there really isn't that long to wait, Hanzo mains. Moving on to the next story, we're going to talk about the additional nerf to D.va's boosters impact damage that came through in yesterday's big update. Now the micro missile nerf that had been on the PTR also came and people were expecting that. But when this additional nerf was noted in the patch notes, i.e. the impact damage from her boosters was reduced from 25 to 10, players were caught a little bit off guard. That had never been part of the PTR testing, or so players thought. Jeff noted on the forums yesterday that it actually had been on the PTR, it's just that they hadn't communicated that to the player base. Apparently the change went in a few days after the initial patch as part of their iteration cycle. So if you have been playing D.va on the PTR to test out the micro missile nerf, for any amount of time after the first 2 days, you've actually played with this nerf already. The fact that many players didn't notice might suggest something about the scope of its impact. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it is a very minor adjustment in line with how they adjusted her micro missiles to ever so slightly limit her burst potential. FREEDO actually made an excellent video a few days ago talking about the impact of the micro missile nerf, and a lot of what he details in that video is still true. Does the fact that she does 15 less damage when she physically flies into you make the synergy with her and Winston any less potent? Technically yes, but effectively probably not. What's one extra melee between friends? And by friends I mean a slow ground-based squishy like Zen or McCree. I don't think D.va players have a huge amount to worry about actually. I understand a nerf seemingly coming out of nowhere doesn't feel that great, but I doubt that for most players in most contexts it will make that much of a difference. As FREEDO also noted, it's changes to other heroes and in fact new heroes coming into the game that will have the biggest impact. Brigitte's shield bash and brawl potential is something that D.va players will have to adjust to. But don't worry, she's not here until next season, so take advantage and get all that freelo that you can right now. Our final story today is the very exciting teaser about the new Symmetra that Jeff posted on the forums yesterday. Symmetra is a complicated subject, and we've spoken about it a few times on the channel before, both detailing how she's a hard character to get value out of as she is currently, as well as some of the things that you could do to improve her and make her utility more applicable. Now when Team 4 first started talking about adjusting Symmetra, we got the impression that the rework was going to be quite significant. They even hinted at that when they detailed that they were brainstorming with her and even talking about adjusting which role she was going to play in the game. A lot of players when they first heard that I think assumed that they were talking about what category she was going to be in, as in were they going to move her out of support and into defense for example. But we read it that Blizzard were considering some much more fundamental changes to her, and by looking at Jeff's post from yesterday we can see that that is actually the direction they're taking. Jeff said, "We're making good progress now, I can't share any details yet unfortunately, but like I said, we're trying some pretty drastic changes." And along with that came a game end card showing that Symmetra had teleported 31 players during a match and that she had 6% teleporter uptime. Jeff also added her rework is going to be significant and most likely will be ready sometime during the summer. Now there are a few conclusions that you can take from this post. Number one is that Blizzard have chosen a direction in which to take Symmetra, and a big part of that, it seems, is based around the utility of her teleporter. Now 31 players is a lot of teammates to get through a limited teleporter ultimate that you only get a few times a game. Now what I'm going to say next is guesswork. The most likely explanation for that end card is that Symmetra's teleporter isn't just her ultimate anymore, and in fact might be a core ability, and the reason I say that is because of the sheer volume of its use and the percentage of the game that it's spent functional. Now it could just be that they've removed the limit on the amount of uses a teleporter ultimate can be used for, and yes, that does qualify as quite a big change, but it isn't quite as dramatic as Jeff has mentioned. Having a teleporter as a core ability, much like Mercy had Rez moved away from her ultimate to her core kit, would be dramatic. Part of Symmetra's biggest problem is that to make her work, you have to sacrifice immediate value for a kind of delayed value in the teleporter. It can be hard to justify a sim pick if you could have easily picked another hero and got immediate impact to help you win the fight right now. Making teleporter a core ability so you have it straight away would go a long way to addressing that. Obviously, it would need balancing, just like Mercy Rez did. Perhaps she needs to maintain it by doing something active, or it costs a resource just like Sim's turret that she has to earn in some way. I'm also going to speculate that they might change her weapon. Another big reason for her being so limited in her applicability is the extremely limited range in which she functions. Any potential rework of her has to address that, at least in my opinion. I always felt there was a huge amount of potential with Symmetra because her lore allows the developers a lot of scope with what she can build. Hardlight technology from the game's world is used to build entire cities. They could, if they wanted to, really lean into that flexibility and make her a character that's extremely dexterous, instead of the opposite, which she currently is. When they were talking about perhaps changing her role, I thought there was a real opportunity to do something absolutely brand new, at least in this game. I had an idea that was inspired by the DC comic book character Green Lantern. That character can use a magical ring to fashion many different weapons and tools using the power of his willpower. Symmetra could, conceptually at least, function in a very similar way. She could have a much larger toolkit in terms of the different types of things that she could build, thus actually changing her role mid-game depending on what she chose. You'd have to be extremely disciplined with how you balanced her, particularly if she had the choice to be either a damage hero or have some healing utility or some shielding. But it could be done, and I think it would actually be a lot of fun to play. But like I said, that's just an idea from the twilight zone of my own mind. It's all speculation at this point because, as Jeff noted, they're not in the position where they feel comfortable sharing details of what they are doing yet. But one thing I think is fairly certain: Symmetra is changing, and perhaps even in some very fundamental ways. You guys will have to let me know how you feel about that down in the comment section below. I really hope you enjoyed today's news roundup. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.